Welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video. Today's video I'm going to be talking about sports romances, and I'm going to be saying yes, no, maybe to them, so whether I would recommend them or not. I've done a few videos like this on my TikTok where I do kind of like a weekly wrap up and give a book a yes, no or maybe as to whether I would recommend it. Obviously, as with any recommendation, it's all down to personal preference, but these are just my opinions on some recent sports romances that I've read. So I will preface this by saying I do really enjoy sports romances. I've been reading quite a lot recently, and I'm not really particular about which sport I'm reading about, because I'll be honest, I don't love sport. It's not that I am a huge hockey or baseball or any type of sport fan. I'm actually really not. But there is something about sports romances that really works for me. They lean into a lot of tropes that I do really like. I also really like the kind of almost like found family aspect that a lot of sports romances have because of the team. A lot of sports romances are obviously centered around like a team sport, and you really get that kind of sense of found family because the teammates are usually really close, and I do really enjoy seeing that. So, as I say, I'm not a huge sports fan, and I don't like my sports romances to be too sporty. Like, I don't mind some references, but when they get a bit too technical, I'm not really interested in that. So that's kind of where I sit with sports romances, and I'm just going to talk about the 5 recent ones that I've read, and as I say, I'll give you a yes, no, maybe for them. The first one that I want to talk about is called The Proposal Play by Lauren Blakely, and this is book 3 in the Love and Hockey series, and this one is a definite yes. I had a really good time reading this one. This one follows Asher and Maeve, and it is a friends to lovers romance and a Married in Vegas romance. So I have not really read too many that feature the Married in Vegas trope, but I had a really good time with this one. This one is quite long. The audiobook was 14 hours, which is quite long for a contemporary romance, and I do feel that contemporary romance seem to be getting increasingly longer and longer. Unnecessarily, I don't feel like they need to be that long, and I do prefer them to be on the shorter side, but this one didn't feel too long. Sometimes the problem with them is that they do feel a little bit dragged out, but this one I did have a good time reading. So, as I said, it is the friends to lovers trope. So Asher and Maeve go to Vegas, and they end up getting married, and because Asher is a hockey player, he has quite a lot of paparazzi attention, and the pictures of them getting married kind of get leaked online, and so it would be bad for his image if they kind of immediately annulled the marriage. So they decide to keep the marriage going, and obviously because they are friends, there is already that kind of chemistry. They already have like a relationship already, so there is already some chemistry there, and we just get to see it build throughout the story, and I really enjoyed seeing that. I also really liked the team aspect as well. We get to see some of the other Asher's teammates, who obviously have their own books as well. I haven't read any of the other books in this series. This, as I say, is book 3 in the series, but you can definitely read this one without having to read the other ones in the series, and I really enjoyed that. With contemporary romance series, more often than not, you can dive into whichever book you prefer. So if there's one that has the tropes that you want to see, you can usually dive into it without having any issues, and that is definitely the case in that one. The next one is Writing Mr. Wrong by Kelly Armstrong, and this one I would say maybe / no. This one, the reason I say maybe / no is if you have read a lot of sports romances, this one doesn't do anything groundbreaking or special. I feel like I've read the story that happens in this book in a lot of other books. And if you have read Kelly Armstrong's paranormal romances, in comparison, this one isn't as good in my opinion. Like, it's still okay, there's nothing bad about it, but for me there are better sports romances out there, and as I say, I think Kelly Armstrong has written better books as well. She's only really dabbled in the contemporary romance genre the past couple of books that she's done. Predominantly she used to write paranormal, and she has written kind of mysteries as well, which have kind of a paranormal element. So to go into contemporary, I don't know, her book, these ones are just okay. But this one we are following Gemma and Mason, and it is a second chance romance. Gemma and Mason went to school together, and they kind of had a little moment whilst they were at school, but it never really went anywhere. And now they're obviously older, and Mason is a hockey player, and Gemma is a romance author, and she has written a historical romance featuring a Scottish laird, and it is rumoured that the inspiration for the Scottish laird is Mason. And she ends up getting invited on a talk show, like a TV talk show, which is hosted by someone else that she went to school with, who is a bit of a mean girl, and she announces on air that she believes that Mason was the inspiration, and kind of puts them back in touch, and they end up fake dating, and it kind of goes from there. I thought that this one was okay, but as I say, I feel like there are a lot of books that have these tropes in, and this one wasn't necessarily my favourite. Fake dating is quite common in sports romances, and the fake dating kind of occurred to kind of help Gemma write her book, and also like her next book, and to also help Mason with his kind of identity, because he's had some recent troubles with his identity in the press, so it's to kind of boost his presence. So overall it was okay. That's why I would say maybe to no, but it, as I say, it's not a bad book, so if you're new to the genre, it might be one to pick up. Then we have Unravel Me by Becca Mack, which is book 3 in the Playing for Keeps series, and I would definitely say yes for this one. Again, it's on the long side. The audiobook was 18 hours, but I had a great time reading this one and would definitely recommend it. As I say, as with Lauren Blakely's book, you don't have to have read the previous books in this series. I haven't read the other books in the series, although I definitely will be. This one you can just dive in, and obviously there are characters mentioned that have their own books, but you really don't need to have read them to be able to read this. So this one we are following Adam and Rosie, and Rosie is a single mum and Adam is a famous hockey player, and they meet when Rosie is training to be a vet, and she volunteers at the local animal rescue centre, and there is a dog there called Piglet who she's kind of fallen in love with, and she was taking Piglet out on a walk when she meets Adam, and Adam has his own dog who I can't remember what breed it is or if it even is mentioned, but it is a big dog, and his dog is called Bear, and whilst they are out walking in this woods, Bear runs off and Adam is shouting for him and obviously calling his name and shouting Bear, and Rosie obviously panics thinking that he is shouting that there is like an actual bear, and that is how they meet, and they had a really cute moment. And as I say, Rosie is a single mum, and the way that Adam really takes that in his stride, not everyone would be accepting of entering in a relationship where there is already a child there, but Adam takes in Rosie's son as if he is his own, and I love seeing that relationship develop. One of my favourite things in a single parent romance is seeing the either hero or heroine interact with the child. Some do it better than others, and this one was really well done. The only thing that kind of may put people off is the conflict in this one is the fact that Adam does not tell Rosie that he is a hockey player. She does not realise, because she's not a sports fan, and so that obviously becomes a moment of conflict later on in the book. But for me, there were so many other elements that I liked in this book that didn't have I didn't have an issue with it. There is a book later on in this video that has a similar sort of trope, and I'll obviously go into that when I get to it, but I didn't like that one, as a spoiler. But this one, as I say, because there were so many other things that I enjoyed more, it didn't bother me too much. And I would definitely recommend it, and I do plan to go back and read Becca Mac's other books. Then we have Rush by Emily Carter, which I would say maybe. And if you are wanting to read Emily Carter, then I would say this would be the book to pick up by her, because I've read her other books and they have just been okay. And this one was also just okay, but it was slightly better than the other two that I've read by her. And this one follows Marco and Savvy. And Emily Carter writes racing, car racing books, like motor racing. Not F1, but they are motor racing. And her other books follow characters within the team. And Savvy has recently joined the new team. They've introduced a new women's only team, and she is like a new recruit. And they decide to kind of set up a buddy system. So Marco is on the males team, and he is kind of assigned to Savvy to be kind of her buddy and kind of introduce her to, you know, getting the ropes and working on the team and whatever. And they have a really close friendship, and they do get on really well. Savvy at the beginning of the book, and throughout a large portion of the book, has a boyfriend, and her boyfriend is a big country star singer, and their relationship has to be kept hidden, and they meet up in kind of secret to spend time together. And whilst they are meeting up in secret, they have like this like cottage or lodge in the mountains. Whilst they are there on one of their meetings, some pictures get taken of them, but her face is not in them, so no one knows her identity, but they are pictures taken of them in compromising positions. And as a result, her boyfriend decides that to kind of take the heat off them, she should pretend to date Marco. So there is kind of a fake dating situation in this one as well. And I just thought that this was so much better than her other books. I did really like seeing Savvy and Marco's relationship develop. As I say, because they were friends, they did already have quite a close bond, and seeing that romance develop. Obviously, as I say, Savvy did have a boyfriend throughout the majority of the book, so the actual seeing Marco and Savvy like actually being together for real was actually only a small portion of the book, but I did still enjoy the journey, and Marco definitely falls first in this one. And yeah, Savvy's boyfriend, I mean, as soon as he was introduced, I was like, obviously it's a romance, so we knew that she wasn't going to end up with him, but I was like, she needs to get rid of him, he's not a very nice person. And obviously that eventually gets proven. So I would say maybe for this one. It's definitely not my favourite sports romance, but from this author it is my favourite from the author. And then the last book that I have is The Art of Catching Feelings by Alicia Thompson, and I would say no for this one. This one is a baseball romance, so a little bit different to all the hockey ones that I read, but this one I just didn't really enjoy. So this one we are following Daphne and what was his name? Chris. And Daphne is going through a divorce, or is divorced. At the beginning of the book she's feeling a little bit down, so her friend, I think it's her friend, takes her to a baseball game, and she gets quite drunk at the baseball game and starts yelling out, starts heckling the players, and she heckles Chris and says some comments because he's not playing particularly well, and she says some comments that really hit a nerve with him, and he ends up crying. So there's obviously that initial conflict, and then she ends up reaching out to him on social media through like a private message, and initially she's going to apologise for heckling him and making him cry, but she doesn't quite send that in her initial message. So they end up communicating via social media and kind of getting to know each other, but she doesn't reveal her identity while she's talking to him on social media. And whilst that is happening, she ends up getting a job doing like reporting for the team. And one of the kind of first things that they have to do is they film a clip of her kind of addressing the fact that she was his heckler, and kind of she obviously apologizes for that. And they then start building up a relationship whilst he is talking to her on social media, but he doesn't realise. So he is very conflicted because he's kind of got feelings for this person that he's talking to on social media, but he's also developing feelings for Daphne, and he feels conflicted about that. And obviously Daphne knows that that she is the one that's communicating with him, and there are so many opportunities that she has to tell him, and she doesn't tell him until quite later on in the book. And that is why one of the things that I really didn't like, as I said with the Becca Mac book, he doesn't tell her straight away, but I didn't mind it as much in that one because there were other things that I was enjoying, and that one almost felt like natural that he didn't tell her, because initially he didn't, in Unravel Me, he didn't necessarily realise initially that she didn't know who he was, and obviously yes, he then decided not to tell her, but as I say, something about that I didn't mind so much. But in this one, I don't know, it really annoyed me that she didn't tell him, especially as she had so many opportunities, and then she was obviously constantly having to try and remember what she talked about on social media with him, like what she'd been messaging him, so it was already starting out on a lie, and I didn't like that. Also, this one was really slow moving, and it took me a really long time to get through this one, even though this one is not particularly long in comparison to some of the other ones. It's 384 pages, but it did feel like a really long read, so for that reason I wouldn't recommend this one. It wasn't for me. And they are all of the sports romances that I have recently read. So I've had a good time reading those, and I've definitely found some series that I do want to continue on with. Please do let me know if you have any recommendations for any sports romances that I should pick up. I definitely have quite a lot on my TBR that I want to get to. I really want to finish the Elle Kennedy books. I'm halfway through the Off-Campus series. I have obviously the Briar series to read, and also I need to read book 1 of the Off-Campus Diaries, and then I've got a few others. I know Stephanie Archer is really popular as well, that I want to check out her books. But if you have any other recommendations, please do let me know, and I will see you in my next video.